Today's section, Mitechilah, asserts that our ancestors were idolaters, and that God has now brought us to his worship. That originally, that Abraham's ancestors, and some interpret even Abraham himself, were people who were involved in the worship of idols. And our story is one of how God brought us to his service. This passage is actually based on a debate in the Gemara, in the Talmud, about how to understand a somewhat enigmatic line in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that when we tell the story on the night of Pesach, we must be maschil bignus, to begin in ignominy, u'mesayim b'shavach, and end up with triumphant praise of God. The Talmud records a debate as to what the meaning of this phrase is. A debate between two of the leading Talmudic sages. Shmuel taught that the ignominy, which the Mishnah was referring to, was the phrase avadim hayinu, that we were slaves, right? That is the beginning of the what we were redeemed from on Pesach, and we celebrate our move from slavery to freedom. Rav, though, understands the passage in the Mishnah differently, and says that the Mishnah actually says that we have to be celebrating on the night of Pesach the evolution of the Jewish people from a nation whose roots are in the world of idolatry to a pure monotheism and service of God. Both of these are incorporated into our text of the Haggadah, and tonight, our section today of Mitechilah is Rav's version of the Haggadah, right? That essentially that we incorporate both halachic approaches into the Seder. What's fascinating, though, is that Rav and Shmuel, the authors of these two statements, were actually combatants on many issues throughout the Talmud. And what's interesting is that we have a general, if not universal, principle about debates between these two sages. The assumption is that Shmuel's arguments carry the day when it comes to dinei mamanos, when it comes to laws of financial transactions and to civil law, right? That is essentially the field of expertise of Shmuel. Whereas when it comes to Isur v'Heter, to the laws of that which is forbidden and permissible, right, to matters of ritual halacha, right, then Rav is the final posek, the final halachic decisor, right? And one may view that as reflective of a basic worldview of these two sages. Right? That Shmuel was one who was much more firmly connected to the here and now, whereas Rav's interests lie in those things that are more spiritual. So therefore, in matters of civil halacha, Shmuel is the acknowledged expert, whereas in matters of ritual and spirituality, Rav is the final decider. What's interesting is that this worldview of these two sages reflects itself in their understanding of what we do on Pesach. Right? Shmuel, more temporally oriented, says the Pesach is about the journey from slavery to redemption. Rav, on the other hand, says that our story is incomplete if we're not chronicling the spiritual evolution, right? More reflective of the way that he viewed the world. Right? And so therefore he insisted that our passage, Mitechilah Ovdei Avodah Zarah Hayu Avoseinu, that our ancestors, original idolaters, is an integral part of the story of Pesach. And it's fascinating to see how these two sages, each with their own worldview, both really contributed to the richness of our experience on Pesach.